It feels absolutely incredible to be starting up this live button again. I have been wanting to record this podcast episode for probably a little bit over a month. You guys, your boy finally did it. Your boy finally got the blue belt. Okay, why am I saying finally? For those that don't know, I've been training jiu-jitsu for like almost 4 years. I was involved in a couple of different gyms, and so I don't think I ever got the promotion. And then coronavirus happened, and I don't think yeah, I mean, or maybe I didn't even deserve it. Maybe I sucked at jiu-jitsu, right? Like, you never really know. I was always more of like a no-gi guy. I was really into like leg locks and stuff like that. Actually, it was really only recently I started getting really interested in the gi, but nonetheless, so grateful, so blessed to finally achieve that. It's a good feeling. I think there's like a different kind of respect that happens and that's given to you when you have the blue belt on versus when you have the white belt on. It's also been quite an interesting journey having the blue belt um, instead of being the white belt because I think it's actually changed a lot when it comes to just training and live rounds and stuff like that. We're going to get a little bit into that, but first, I have a couple of announcements to make. We have secured our first sponsor, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very excited to announce proud sponsor of Aftermath American Bullies. Guys, do me a favor, go like their page. This guy's helping me get into some competitions. Gonna help me get. We're gonna get some fresh clothing together. We're gonna have a lot of awesome collaborative ideas. Go see the cute puppies. Listen, I've had dogs my whole life, and unfortunately, I had to put them down about a year ago. And dogs are absolutely amazing. I love watching and looking at just dogs popping up on my news feed. I think these pit bulls are absolutely adorable. I think they're very underrated. I think people give them a bad rep, but when they have good ownership, they're well trained. You see very beautiful things. So, guys, go show them some love. Go like their page on Facebook. We really appreciate that. Also, we got the new addition to the Grapplers Edge. Anybody that knows, we got the nutrition version up and live here. I'm gonna put the two links down in the description. I'm gonna put the link to the Facebook page and these two links to the Grapplers Edge. Guys, if you've been wanting to improve your nutrition, you're tired of feeling sick in between rounds, you want to have more energy, this is the way to go. Real practical nutrition knowledge. It's going to give you the guidelines. It's going to give you what you need to know, not only with what to eat, but it's going to show you how you can actually change your behavior over time and make this more of a consistent lifestyle. I think a big problem with nutrition, you see people go on a diet, they do it for a bit, and then they, don't really wind up doing anything and they can't stay consistent with it. So guys, go check out all the details. There is going to be in the link in the description. If you've been wanting to do some strength and conditioning, you've been wanting to do some rehab exercises for your injuries, you want to manage pain a little bit better, we have the strength and conditioning course as well. We got a 12-week strength and conditioning plan. We have exercise videos, concept videos to show you how you can actually program for yourself. Practical information. It's going to be stuff that you can apply right away. Again, all the details is going to be down below. I really appreciate that. Appreciate all the support as of recently that we've been getting. And I'm excited to kind of come back into the podcast world a little bit. It's very podcasting to me is very therapeutical. There's something about just being able to just talk about the stories and the things that have been happening recently in my jiu-jitsu journey. It's kind of why I created this. It's super exciting, right? White to black belt, and here we are. We got the blue belt, right? That's one step closer to the goal. And of course, jiu-jitsu and progress doesn't end once you get the black belt, but it's very exciting to take it another step forward. A few things I kind of wanted to talk about, guys. I want to make sure that I provide as much positive support and influence to people so they can improve their lives over time. And there's definitely some topics I want to talk about in regards to that. Self-improvement's a huge thing for me. It was, years ago before I started jiu-jitsu, I, had a lot of problems. especially you guys have heard me talk about NoFap, and started getting into NoFap actually right before I did jiu-jitsu. And NoFap was actually the catalyst that gave me the energy to go and start actually training martial arts and training jiu-jitsu, training MMA. It's that energy that keeps me hooked onto jiu-jitsu, and I absolutely love it. It's way more fulfilling than wasting my energy or wasting my nut on watching people have sex with each other on the internet. It's quite a disgusting thing. It's been quite a battle. I have had that battle of resistance I think we all go through, especially when it comes to this podcast here and just making an episode and just getting on there. You get all the things that tell you, oh, you shouldn't do it. Nobody's going to care. It's not going to matter. It doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. You have all these rationalizations. All of a sudden you start wasting time, and a month or two goes by and you didn't click the record button, right? Like I've had this blue belt for I got it at the end of December. I got it around Christmas time because I was visiting. And it's nearing 2 months. I meant to make this podcast the day of. So it's something uncomfortable to talk about for sure. I think when it comes to the internet, a lot of people like to put on this fake persona of what they can accomplish and what they've achieved and blah, blah, blah. But I think a big thing that I want to do with me and my brand is just keep it 100, keep it real, because there's so many fitness influencers out there. There's so many influencers in general in all different fields out there that just do nothing but bullshit their people. And it gets people to follow them and like them. And I think that's cool. That makes you happy. But for me, I really want to be real and honest. I'd rather have 5 people watch my stuff and think like, damn, that really helped me, rather than like 100 people that are just like just like zombies watching my content. Like, I'd rather be something that's like more real and genuine. So, some quick notes on that. You guys, there's more to life than jujitsu. This is what the blue belt has taught me. This was a very emotional thing for me. When I got the blue belt, I cried for like 2 days because I put so much effort for almost 4 years training. I remember during COVID, I was traveling to secret locations to train, taking a lot of sacrifice. I was doing private lessons before COVID, and we finally get it. It just feels really special. So, that's and the one thing that really shows me is that you can put all this time and dedication into jiu-jitsu, but you are not jiu-jitsu. You are not the result of your jiu-jitsu. You are not the result of your jiu-jitsu competition. You are not the result of what happens in the jiu-jitsu mats. You're not an identity to your jiu-jitsu. And this is something that I think a lot of people have, and something that I struggle with a lot in particularly I really like jujitsu, and I really like competing on like a technical level, figuring out what's working in competition, what's not working, how can we revamp this. I really love that feeling, but competition has its anxiety. I see other blue belts in the no-gi divisions, what they can do, and I just am like, am I prepared for this? Am I ready for that next level? Am I ready for that next step? And that's something that it can sometimes haunt my identity. Like, am I ready for this? Or is my jiu-jitsu good enough? Am I good enough to potentially beat competition? And it's kind of like, well, what's the point of really thinking like that? I mean, the whole point of jiu-jitsu is that there's like an art to it, right? I'm not saying you can't not want to win or you don't want to be a great competitor, but you're not that. You're not jiu-jitsu. The thing about jiu-jitsu is it's part of your life. And if you understand, the thing is that when you understand that it's a part of your life, it becomes a lot less like confusing. It becomes a lot less stressful. How am I going to fit this into my routine? How am I going to fit this in my schedule? And, it can be tough. It can be tough to find that balance. And I think that it's about really recognizing it first. Like, you might not have heard it, but I think there's many times we can catch ourselves like identifying with the outcome of our jiu-jitsu. So it's not really about that though. You could still be very great at jiu-jitsu, but I don't think it's really about that particularly. I don't think it's about just having that be your life. I actually would like to make jiu-jitsu as part of my profession. It's one reason why I'm really into taking the skills that I've already developed of coaching and training and nutrition and strength work and putting that into the context of people that do jiu-jitsu, because I want to involve myself in the community. I want to try to also start to create a brand for myself in the community, and I want to share my knowledge with the community that I feel like will be very helpful. And that's something that's really important to me, because jujitsu is something that keeps me on track and away from the demons that we were talking about before with nofap, right? Those urges that I get, that energy that I get, I put that towards jiu-jitsu. I love it. It just gravitates me. But I understand that I am not jiu-jitsu. There's other things in life. And something that really made me think about this was, I was training like 5, 6 days a week, and strength training as well. I was training hard. And we all get something. Something always comes up, right? I remember it was months ago. It was the coronavirus. I had to quarantine for 10 days, and then I ended up being fine, and I got back to training. But for 10 days, I couldn't train. Obviously, with COVID closing things down, it could potentially make training very inconvenient to you. And it's like, there are times where you might not be able to train. For me, recently, I started noticing some ringworm, and I'm sure everyone's dealt with ringworm. But I had to go through that process of trying to get some medication, trying to get the right stuff on there, making sure it's not spreading, and making sure I'm not spreading it to my training partners, trying to keep it contained. And, I'm probably going to have to take the rest of the week off. I'm probably going to have to take this whole week off of jiu-jitsu. I didn't train this weekend because I started seeing it on Friday, and it sucks. It sucks. I really miss it. I really wish I trained, but it makes you think about what else is going on in life, right? We got to handle our finances as well. We got to handle our relationships with our family and friends. We got to handle our health. We have to do these things outside of just the jiu-jitsu training to keep us happy, really. I think there's a lot of people that definitely use jiu-jitsu as like a way to cope, or use it as a crutch on a lot of the negative emotions that they're dealing with. And to be honest, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Doing jiu-jitsu is probably very good for you. It's good for you physically. You're talking to people, you're building relationships with people as an adult. That's very difficult to do. I think that's why jiu-jitsu is also something that is great, is it brings people together when that's hard to do as an adult. So, it can be very like addicting and hooking, but it's also important that outside of the training room, we face our real problems, guys. Our real problems, our problems with our family, our problems with our bank account, our problems with our relationships, the problems within ourselves, our confidence, our securities, our health. Paying attention to those things is super critical, to not ignore that when you're just going about your day and going about your life. It's something that I felt like I definitely got into the trap of as a later white belt, but something about getting the blue belt, I felt like this level of maturity kind of risen out of me. I felt like I really put in the work and earned something, and it's very humbling. And I almost grew like a sense of self-respect for myself. And I think that that's where I can kind of come from. That's kind of where all these words are really coming from, and kind of learning how to balance. And truth be told, I find that the more attention that I pay to the other things outside of jujitsu, the better my jujitsu gets. Because when I'm doing jujitsu, it's me doing jujitsu, and I'm not worried about what else is going on. Obviously it's hard to worry about that stuff that's going on, but I don't let that stress bother me anymore. I could go into jujitsu much more relaxed. I'm a lot less stressed in general. I don't have that, like, that after training anxiety when it's back to the real world. It's kind of like a video game, right? Like if you binge a video game for 4 hours, eventually you still have to go and write your essay, right? Like if you go to jiu-jitsu, you still have to pay the bills at the end of the month. You still have to do these things, and it's like that can't be ignored. And I think we can get fallen into this trap of jiu-jitsu. We start watching all these memes. We start getting involved on the internet a lot with jiu-jitsu, and it's like, it's great. I don't think that's not a problem. It's not a bad thing, but there definitely needs to be an acknowledgement of what is too much, and when do we need to like scale it back, take a break? When do we need to like reflect inside? When is it like what can we do outside of jiu-jitsu to better ourselves? And that will entail better our jiu-jitsu. So a lot of the times when we get injured or we get ringworm or we get staph infection or we have a problem with the family or the government shuts down the gym, we need to be able to say, okay, this is okay. I'm going to be alive. I'm going to make it out of this alive. And I could still actually better my life and better my jujitsu even when I'm not there, because that's the way, right? Like that's the way. That's the martial art way. That's the dedication. That's the discipline that is instilled in us when we train, right? And if we can't actually train and that brings us a lot of stress and anxiety, that's when we can reflect that energy and put it into other things. And that's what we have to accept at that point and at that time. If you can't get to training due to whatever reason, you do the best you can and you don't be so hard on yourself. And I think that that's an important conversation for us to have as martial artists is just being okay with not being able to train, knowing how to study, still watching matches, watching jiu-jitsu, seeing what people are doing, trying to stay up to date, planning, scheduling jiu-jitsu sessions, still getting in some strength training. I have my own home gym, so don't need to worry about contaminating anybody. I clean it after anyway, so I can still do that at least. I just be grateful for what I have, and I just know that when it comes back down to training, it's going to be exciting. I'm always excited to get back into it. Sometimes when you do something for a long period of time and you're doing it very consistently, very often, maybe even a little bit too much, you get to that burnt out situation. So having that break when you get back to it, just acknowledging that like you're going to be so grateful and appreciative of getting back into training than you would have. And sometimes that can be the perfect thing at that moment in your time as an athlete in order to better your performance. Sometimes that is exactly what needs to happen. So I just wanted to get that out there. I wanted to acknowledge that, the blue belt was a very cool opportunity. The one thing I definitely wanted to talk about now that I am a blue belt is I'm now regularly training more with higher belts. So training more with blues, purples, browns, and it's different. It's definitely different because you're going to get hit with technique that you understand kind of what's going on, but you're just getting like whopped. And it's this continuous, like if you think that your brain was going crazy as a white belt, now as you start going with people, because here's the thing, when you get to the blue belt, you don't just suck at jiu-jitsu where you're just like a reckless spaz, most likely. So the person who you're going against who's better than you, they have to use better technique on you in order to win the match. So if somebody was beating you up a year ago, you could go into a match with that same guy and he may be better than you, but he might have to pull off different technique and better technique in order to actually capitalize on you. And that's going to make you learn a lot more as long as you can keep your ego to the side and reflect intelligently on how each training session went. And I think that was a big turning point for me entering into the blue belt phase is seeing people work like a little bit higher level technique on me and seeing that consistently. It get beat up a little bit. There are definitely some people that your blue belt, it's time to work up, get some good rounds in for sure. But ultimately, it's a blessing, and that's what's going to get you to learn more. And I think that's the acceptance that you need to get into as a blue belt, rather than falling into the blue belt blues, falling into the how am I going to keep up and keep the pace. It's a whole new journey that happens. I think that's why a lot of people do quit as a blue belt, but I'm definitely not quitting. I'm very excited to continue on the journey. I'm very grateful to have made it this far. And I'm going to just see how far we can get to me. We got the White to Black Belt podcast where we're going to document some of the highlights that come on. I definitely want to make a commitment to do this more consistently. And, it's if this is something that you enjoy, definitely please make sure you like, comment, if you can share it with people. Listen to this when you're in the car, or if you just want to keep yourself you keep your mind focused on self-improvement and jiu-jitsu. That's what we're going to try to bring to this podcast. Well, we have other podcast episodes where we got some black belts and brown belts on there that are spitting some real good knowledge. So make sure you guys check out the other episodes. Go show some love to Aftermath on Facebook, Aftermath American Bullies. Guys, get yourself in shape, start strength training, hit up the Grapplers Edge, get that nutrition right. All the links are going to be in the comments. Yo, God bless you, motherfuckers. Have yourselves a great Sunday, and I'll catch up with you guys